I don't believe that balance exists. I believe it's wholeness.
I'm whole to begin with, but I have work to do.
Wholeness to me is being able to be your own bridge to your heart, through your heart.
Today we are going to explore some fundamental components that contribute to a vibrant and fulfilling life. I hope you stay to the end because I think you'll be surprised in what comes up. And if you do, please rate and review this podcast wherever you're listening. It really means a lot. Each of us aspires to live a life brimming with energy, purpose, and well-being. And understanding the key aspects about what contributes to humans having this life is, I think, worth a conversation. But I'd like to add something a little more because we always just have a list of the things we got to do. But I'd like to also talk about what gets in the way. Why don't we just do these things? Because I'm sure you could come up with the list on your own. You know what these things are. And I'm not convinced that it's a disciplinary problem or a lazy issue on your behalf or my behalf on why we don't just do the things that we're supposed to on a list. I think if we give voice to these authentic parts of who we are and work with them, we have a better chance of moving toward our goals. Because I have a real problem with bootstrap living. We know the list, and so we just got to pull ourselves together and do it. And I think there's a better way. I know that when we control one area of our life, and I'm saying control using any kind of force, chaos usually shows up in another area. We need to understand our capacity and own that about ourselves. And that doesn't mean we accept our capacity and we don't try to move forward or grow. I just want to give voice to those parts of us that maybe are saying no to these things or having a hard time doing those things. And I hope that as we move forward, it gives you some relief and direction. We will dive into 7 pivotal areas that play a crucial role in shaping our overall health and happiness. I chose 7 because it is a symbol of completeness and wholeness, and that is what we are really striving toward. Apparently the birds are going to join me on this podcast, so you might hear their little tweets in the background every so often. They're 2 little lovebirds, and they are the sweetest things, and I'm just going to kind of roll with it. The 7 areas are physical activity, nutrition, sleep and waking up, stress management, social connections, personal growth and learning, and 7th, purpose and meaning. And we want to unravel the secrets to living with vitality, and we want to understand what gets in the way, these 7 aspects of living life with vitality. So number 1, physical activity. Regular exercise and movement help us maintain a healthy body. It boosts energy levels and improves mood. There are no prizes for guessing that we would go here first. We always start with physical activity and the body's health, right? Because when the body isn't getting what it needs, nothing is getting what it needs. Our bodies are like the mamas of our lives. If it ain't happy, no one is happy. And when it's not happy, there's probably a good reason. So that's why a good health checkup is essential, especially if things are not right or not just right. And we all know doctor's going to say something about physical activity, so we might as well go there. Exercise can feel daunting to many of us, and I have a theory that all the people who love exercise are Enneagram 8s or 1s. They are in the body trine. 9 is 2, but the center of the trines usually invert the trait. So 9s and 1s, they're in the physical trine of the Enneagram. And if you want to know all about the Enneagram, I did an in-depth series on each one, I think 10 episodes. Was it earlier this year? Or no, last year, early 2022. And you can also get information on how to learn your Enneagram type and to get information about your type. I think type 3s might exercise also. They might have inclined to like exercise, but they would do it more out of achieving something and love it for the reason that it gives them that accomplishment feeling, or they achieve a certain body type or a certain pant size, and that would be their motivator. Maybe type 6s might be afraid of bad health, or they might be loyal to good health. And then type 7s might inadvertently exercise as they enthuse themselves. The rest of us, most no likey. Like, exercise isn't something we would normally love and enjoy, I would say, for that burn, for that sweat, right? At least not for me. And there are several factors that can hinder people from exercising regularly, valid reasons. And some common barriers include a lack of time. And it's true, busy schedules and daily responsibilities may leave little time for exercise. This may be 100% true for you, and yet you may feel guilt about or shame about this excuse. But what if you believed yourself? What if you could let yourself off the hook and say to somewhere inside of you, I am doing my best I can at this time, and hopefully that can change. And when it does, I promise I will reassess. In the meantime, maybe getting as much movement where you can and when you can is the best that you can do, and that's great. If you use the time looking for a close parking lot and just park and walk a little further, you've used the same amount of time. And when you do that, champion yourself for the effort. It's a win. If you're in a hurry or your emotions are high, then you'll cut yourself a break and just find the parking space that's close. Another thing you can say to yourself is, if I have time, I will take the stairs instead of the elevator. But what's going to happen is the shaming is going to stop, and we're going to start trusting that the choices you make are made for a reason, and most likely the best reason at the time. Hindsight could be different, but at the time you are a good decision maker. And I think when we start to act from that place, other things, we just kind of have more energy or more ability to improve, because we've opened up space for us. Another reason why exercise is hard is there's a lack of motivation or fatigue. Some people may struggle with finding the drive or enthusiasm to start and maintain an exercise routine. I know this is so true for me. When I lost my weight, one of the biggest things I had to fight was this belief I discovered that I was worried I was going to fail. I was going to stop doing it or not be able to do it or not want to do it. And therefore I might as well not start. Like, that fear of failing was stopping me from even starting. So I spent 3 months in quiet, honestly, in quiet meditation as I exercised, kind of answering those questions for myself. What would I do if this happened? What would I do if that happened? How would I feel? Is that okay to feel that way? It was really interesting and really helpful for my journey. But it's true, life could be exhausting. And again, it's maybe valuable to set aside some quiet time to ask yourself, what's going on? Be curious, calm, and compassionate with yourself. And if that inner critic starts to hammer you with guilt and shame, like it sometimes does, tell that part that they will get their chance in a moment. For now, you just want the facts. Maybe write them down. Write all the things that come to your mind and allow it all and believe it. When that inner critic has its turn, then see if that critic has some good points and it motivates you to make change. If it is just about tearing you down, then don't listen. That's not helpful. That doesn't give you any kind of way to move forward or to do something different. Then I encourage you to take this list and to set it aside and live. Just let it live for a minute. Let it breathe. Let it just be there. Don't have to fix it or work on it. I'm convinced that time spent pushing against or acting from a place of force or bootstrapping, like I mentioned, puts us on a cycle of so-called success and so-called failure. And we feel good about our successes, not because of our awesomeness, but because we have avoided the failure. Something very different. We spend a lot of time on this monkey wheel, and if we get off and do nothing for a time, motivation comes much faster, and that time is better spent. Also, when it comes to moving, when I let myself own the fact, I did this, like I say, I did this introspection, and I honestly let myself own the fact that I did not like to sweat and drip. And so I stopped feeling guilty about it. I just said, this is not for me. I will not, that's something that I will just bump up against over and over again if I keep trying to force a feeling of sweat. That's that sweatiness. I know I would find excuses to not do it. So better for me to own that. And what happened was I lost almost 45 pounds, hardly breaking a sweat, 22 minutes a day, because that was what was authentic to me. I learned to believe myself, and I did what I could. And I believe that authenticity is that powerful. It's something that I lean on a lot in sessions with my clients. We can talk about all of the things you can do to be a better human being, but when we find that authenticity, when we find what is authentic, then there's no more questions, and there's no more answers. That's it. Speaking of authenticity, it is my passion, and I believe it is the building block to thriving. So in September of 2023, I am beginning my Strive to Thrive class. It's an online class. And I believe magic happens when you live from a place of authenticity. So join me and see what I mean. I'll try and put a link in the description. It's a 4-week class, 2 times a week. It's an intensive maybe, but it's really getting to who you are and what you want to be and do. And letting yourself be comfortable with that. So it's true that when it comes to physical exercise, limited access to gyms, parks, or exercise facilities can feel like a hindrance to getting physical activity. This is a good time, again, to get curious. So if what you're needing is, do you like a group atmosphere? Is it the equipment of these facilities that interests you or makes you feel like you've got to have it or else you can't do it? Something tells me when you really explore the belief about why those things are needed, new options begin to open up. And we start to say, this is why I really like to go to the gym, or this is why I like a piece of equipment or a class. Why does that speak to me? At the very least, you will know yourself better after asking these questions, and you'll have a sense of being understood. And that alone is the feeling of vibrant and fulfilling life that we're looking for. Okay, one last kind of hindrance to physical exercise. Maybe health issues, even weather conditions may be something that stops you from moving your body. But again, on repeat, listen to those concerns. If the thoughts are really not a concern, then they will just float away and you will be reinvigorated. If they are real concerns, I bet you are right. I bet you are right about yourself and your ability to have that kind of movement. So move on to practicing not needing other people to agree with you for you to know what's right for you. Practice that instead. And I just think movement kind of will pop up in other places. The desire shows up, and then once the desire's there, we don't have to try anymore. Overcoming these barriers to physical exercise often involves finding creative solutions, setting realistic, easy-to-reach goals, and gradually incorporating physical activity into one's daily routine. And again, I love the idea of just movement. I remember my mom reading an article that talked about people that bounce their feet or wiggle their toes a lot, and they seem to be thin. These people seem to be thin. And she finally felt like she could make sense of my dad's thin physique. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was the idea that it's movement, not painful wear and tear, that really, really counts in the end. Okay, number 2 aspect of our lives that brings us into a feeling like we are living in vitality and a fulfilled life is nutrition. A balanced and nutritious diet, rich in fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains, fuels the body and supports vitality. We know this, but again, what really gets in the way? And this might not be the same for you, so again, do your own introspection. Besides all the same, move inside and listen, which I really do think is super key and often better with a coach or a counselor, by the way, because it's really validating to have a thought and have a feeling and have someone say, okay, that's where we begin to work within that parameter. We're not going to try and say you shouldn't feel that way. That becomes the parameters with which we start to create life from, and we come up with solutions that work for you as an individual. I would add a simple tip to this, though. Maybe you can reimagine what eating looks like as far as nutrition is concerned. I know when I was young, my mom was expected to create a meat dish, side veggie, some kind of salad, or a casserole where they blended all those things together, which was looked at, the casserole was looked at as some kind of laziness on her part. Can I just say, hello, patriarchy? If you don't know what that means or it bothers you, let me just say it this way. My dad didn't so much as threaten us or my mom. We just picked up on the idea that his opinion was superior and looked at his opinion as our own, which is just dumb. If we blame him for that, it's dumb. But it doesn't make sense for that to be true anymore. And so to change that, we start to understand our own perspectives. And so for myself, realizing that I don't know if a meat dish, a side dish, and a salad needs to be the definition of a meal for me. So I could throw a couple of slices of turkey out of the deli on a plate with some cottage cheese and some carrot sticks, and that could be my meal. I could say I made dinner with that, which maybe sounds just no big deal to you, but it was a big shift for me to allow myself that opinion, that definition of a meal. So you may not have to go through that. Maybe yours is a different way. It might be valuable to make a list of foods you like, both healthy and unhealthy, and just see how that shows up. You might be surprised. A lifestyle, I always say, a lifestyle where you are pounding the table in delight at dinner time is a very vibrant and literally fulfilling life. I actually believe that food isn't what puts weight on. It's using food for emotional band-aids or as a distraction. That's what puts the weight on. This isn't about weight anyway. It's about nutrition. So maybe start taking a vitamin supplement if that's the best thing. Maybe you change one meal a day. Again, it's what feels authentic to you. It's what makes you say, yes, I can do that. Like, totally, that's easy. Do those things. Start there. Make it easy. And do it because it's authentic to you. You're choosing it. It feels right. Okay, number 3 is sleep and waking up early. Kind of different things. A lot of times we just talk about sleep, but in my own life, in my own bias, waking up is just as important. Quality sleep is crucial for restoring energy, enhancing cognitive function, and supporting overall health. Sleep is when our system gets to reboot and realign. Our brain slows down and worries are often less worrisome after some sleep. And some of you work nights or have kids. You are doing your best, and I'm not talking to you at the moment. Come back when this might be helpful. So we all know this about sleep. Yeah, we got to get sleep. So again, if that's something that supports you, great. If it doesn't, then believe that maybe for the time being at least. Again, back to making the list. Really think about what feeds you sleep-wise. Do you love certain textures in PJs or sheets? Do you like it cool or warm? How would you prefer the room lighted? Make a list of your authentic desires and move toward incorporating as many of those things as possible. Like, think about it as your way of sleeping, and maybe that's going to bed late and waking up late, or maybe that's going to bed early and waking up early. I include waking up as part of this area because that has been a recent aha for me personally. I would never have called myself a morning person, ever. Never, never, never. I remember feeling deep emotions as my kids needed to get up earlier and earlier for school. It was always like, oh, junior high, here we go. We got to get up a little earlier. High school, oh no, we got to get up a little earlier. Now that my kids are almost all adults, I thought I would love sleeping in. I was like, I made it. I'm so excited. But after really testing it over and over, I don't feel better sleeping in. And it feels so counterintuitive to wake up rather than sleep in. I'm telling you, I thought I was pampering myself with sleeping in. But when I got curious with myself, I saw that I was feeling hurt, sadness, and pain in other areas of my life, and using this so-called luxury to somehow make up for the loss in my life. I was pampering myself, not just out of pampering, but out of deserving it because I was hurting. And since sleep didn't cause the suffering I was actually feeling, sleep couldn't make up for it. So I'm going to say it again. When I honored the truth, my authentic truth, things shifted easily, and it wasn't an effort to wake up earlier. And I want to say that one thing that kept me sleeping at times was using time in the day, which points to loneliness. Sleep was a little bit about not being awake and having to deal with some of the things that were happening in my awakeness, which really points to loneliness. And loneliness is a huge health issue. The UK, Australia, Japan, among others, have taken loneliness very seriously, and some have appointed a minister or task force to actually combat loneliness. Depression is another cause for sleeping in. Whatever the cause, believe what your body is telling you and seek the solutions that make sense for you. Again, leave willpower out of it for now. As the underlying issues get their proper care, the other areas become doable. Number 4 on our list is stress management. And, we know that practicing relaxation techniques, mindfulness, and stress-reducing activities help maintain vitality and mental well-being. This is the goal and the expertise of the Wholeness Network. And the Wholeness Network was created because we knew from our own experience that feeling good was not just about life being just the way we want it to be. Stress management is not stress removal. Again, time, money, health, and other things can affect how we feel. That's true. But the tools in the Wholeness Library are there to show you that it isn't set in stone. We can make it a practice to feel relaxed and calm. In fact, those that feel relaxed and calm most of the time simply have more practice at it. All people struggle on some level. We'll try not to compare, that's not important, but most of us were raised under some sort of stress, and that became our midpoint instead of an extreme. And we will need more practice at feeling safe and relaxed and calm and even happy states. Some of us have more practice, and we can stop and have compassion about that. But this idea is how Viktor Frankl, an Australian psychiatrist, neurologist, and Holocaust survivor, was able to say, quote, "Everything could be taken from a man, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." And I would say that choosing the attitude although that sounds really empowering, does require some tools. And we have them for you in the library. Number 5 on the list is social connections. And we are all very aware of the importance of this. We had an opportunity in the last few years to experience the other end of the spectrum. And so we're a little more aware of this, but engaging with friends, family, and community fosters a sense of belonging and emotional vitality. And this goes along with loneliness that we talked about before. We are social creatures, and we need interaction and connection as much as we need food, warmth, and rest. For some, this is easy, and for others, not so much. You may need to do some investigation into your particular need for social interactions, which isn't the same as social connections. Some of us are introverted and actually need time away from other people, and that needs to be honored and allowed. Introverts use more brain power in groups of people and need alone time to recharge. And we can feel that connection without as much interaction. So we're looking for the connection, and we need interaction, but that varies. And different personality types need more or less social interaction. Take the Enneagram or other personality tests to better understand what you need. Interaction speaks differently to different people as well. A letter or card is plenty for some and not enough for others. Learning what is authentic to you is worth some of your precious time. You will gain dividends of information and freedom when you take some time to learn these pieces of yourself and what is authentic to these pieces of yourself. With that said, a study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences suggested that social support can have a buffering effect on stress. The research showed that individuals who experienced greater social support had lower stress hormone levels in response to stressful situations. Other studies indicated that a better immune system, better heart health, less cognitive problems as we age, and even a longer lifespan are highly affected by having social connections versus isolation. Again, connections rather than interaction. The 6th on the list is personal growth and learning. Continuously learning, growing, and challenging oneself can lead to a sense of progress and self-improvement. And that's a good reason. People with a growth mindset believe that their basic qualities are not fixed traits. Individuals with this growth mindset see challenges as opportunities for growth and learning. They are not afraid to take on new tasks and see failure as a natural part of the learning process. So what are we talking about? Personal growth and learning, and that growth mindset sees challenges as a learning process. And I think that's what gets in the way. Our idea opposite of that. In order to grow and learn, we must see feedback, whether positive or negative, as valuable information that can help us improve. We need to be open to constructive criticism and use it to make necessary adjustments. Rather than feeling threatened or envious of others' success, a growth mindset finds inspiration in the achievements of others. We can see success in others as proof of what is possible. Yada, yada, yada. We've heard that before as well. And you may resist this kind of mindset. It's the ego. The ego might want us to think that as adults, we have found our career or other niche and learning new things has no value, or making mistakes is not important or something to be resisted. We look at what is learned as having value when it's actually the act of learning. That's where the value is actually at. Learning something new at some point involves unlearning something or some things. Growth does have some pain or discomfort attached to it, but I often wonder if the pain and discomfort exists more because we resist it or we don't want it. We think it shouldn't be that way. We believe it should be painless. Therefore, any discomfort that comes in plays to that bias, and we actually feel that is more difficult than it really is, because our belief is that pain is to be avoided. I'm going to put a link in the show notes for a short video I made about the idea of knowing and unknowing. I hope learning and growth never stops. I personally believe it is the only way we don't cease to exist. To me, that the best feeling in the world is that aha. It's like, oh right, that makes sense. Something new. I don't know. Otherwise, I think it's just blah. We can't know all things. It just becomes boring at that point. There's nothing new. I remember telling my kids when they were young, I was trying to help them understand that although they had a desire for something, if they got it all the time, it was the uniqueness, it was the not having it that made it special. So I would use this example, like if I gave them a toy, if I said, okay, every day you get a new toy, and every day you woke up and we went to the store to get a new toy, it would really not take long before that was drudgery, before that didn't have meaning. It was just what you did. It's the difference. It's the contrast that makes it special. And speaking of that, the last thing, number 7, is purpose and meaning. Having a sense of purpose and pursuing meaningful goals and having meaning can provide a deep sense of fulfillment and vitality in our lives. Purpose and meaning are fundamental concepts related to the sense of significance, direction, and fulfillment in one's life. While they are related, they have distinct qualities, purpose and meaning. Purpose refers to a specific reason or aim that gives direction and focus to an individual's life. It is the overarching goal or mission that guides actions, decisions, and behaviors. When we have this purpose, then those decisions become easier. Having a sense of purpose involves understanding one's values, passions, and long-term objectives, and aligning them with meaningful pursuits. It often involves a sense of being driven by something greater than oneself and contributing to the well-being of others in a larger cause. So that's purpose. Meaning, on the other hand, pertains to the significance and value individuals ascribe to their experiences, relationships, and life events. It involves finding significance and understanding in what one encounters, even in challenging or difficult circumstances. Meaning is a subjective perception. Meaning can be derived from various sources, such as the personal relationships, spiritual beliefs, or creative pursuits, maybe achievements, helping others, and connecting with a larger community or purpose. Experiencing that feeling, I guess, of meaning contributes to a sense of contentment, inner peace, and a feeling of living a life of depth and purpose. When I think about the reasons why we may resist purpose and meaning, or why when I begin to talk about this, there's some of you out there that just start to feel uncomfortable in your body, or you just start to shut down a little bit, and that's valid. I think it's because we have social constructs around these two things, purpose and meaning, kind of things that we all just agree they mean, and maybe they don't. First of all, I think we confuse purpose and success, and we assign wealth as the barometer of success. But these concepts, purpose, success, and wealth, are 3 distinct things. It kind of puts this image of my head. Remember those picture books when you were young, and it's kind of broken in 3 sections, and there's like a head, a middle, and legs and feet of a person or like a monster, and you kind of pick one head and then you pick a different body, and it kind of makes it a new thing because you've kind of mixed it up. Purpose, success, and wealth are like that to me. So maybe you have purpose and maybe you're not successful, but maybe you have a lot of money, or maybe you have a purpose and you successfully help a lot of people, but your wealth is just sufficient. And for you, it's fine, but maybe by definition of the world, it's different. That definition is different, and yet it's sufficient. There's all sorts of things that make you feel good about purpose, success, and wealth. That's individual. And the other thing about the construct is purpose is such a big word, and we think it's huge, and it makes us feel like we got to get it right or else. And this is another thing we just bump up against. We feel like we will be wrong, in quotes, if we don't somehow figure out this hidden secret or unlock this secret code of our life purpose, our purpose. The truth is, most humans have lived on the earth, have eaten, slept, worked, had relationships, experienced successes and failures, and then died over the millennia of humans. Most of us would think that as a missed purpose. But what if it's not? What if your purpose was to live? And living means the everyday things. What if you and your purpose were the same thing? You might share yourself with a lot of people, or you might keep yourself for a few precious souls. The feelings you generate is what counts. You move our purpose as a human family forward because you live. And here we move to meaning, because it is the meaning or the why you live the way you do that creates the feelings of purpose. Making meaning in life is both given to us from others and imagined or created within ourselves. We become powerful creators when we originate meaning. We don't do that all the time. Here's an example. A few weeks ago, I wanted to let my husband know how much I cared for him and how I was a safe place for him. And I wanted to acknowledge how much we'd been through. Even now, I'm having a hard time putting into words how I felt and the magnitude of my heartfelt desire, what I wanted to show him or tell him. So I created a playlist of songs that articulated my feelings. There were several of them, and they each were a little different. I took the lyrics to the songs and I printed them and framed them in some inexpensive frames from Walmart. I asked him if we could drive up into the mountains, and then I played him the songs and I presented my gift. I created a meaningful experience, and it elevated our relationship much more than words alone could have. And I have to say that, at least for me, a lot of times those feelings would just go inside my head. Oh, I really appreciate him, or I want him to know I'm a safe place, and it just stays in my head instead of creating meaning by putting it out there in the world purposefully. I also look for meaning in everyday things. If I look up at the sky and something catches my eye, I ask myself what meaning it could have. I'm not as much looking for a correct answer as experiencing the process. So what gets in the way of meaning? I think we are used to people outside of us giving it to us rather than creating it ourselves. We think meaning is so big and absolute when it doesn't have to be. Maybe that feeling inside that you felt before when it started to feel uncomfortable was because you're like, okay, here we go. Someone's going to tell me what to do, or I got to get it right. Or again, I got to know the right meaning of something, like it's a test. But I think our purpose is to find meaning, and that finding meaning is a lifelong pursuit. It's beautiful. I don't think this is a spoiler, but at the end of the Barbie movie, there's this moment when Barbie is conversing with her maker. Barbie is trying to figure out what she should do. She's trying to make a decision about what's right for her. Does she live in the real world, or does she stay in Barbie land? In Barbie land, everything is perfect and her actions are planned out and routine. And her creator is, really letting her know that in the real world, anything can happen. And then you die, right? And there's this montage of what looks like home videos, lots of home videos. It's just everyday things. And you can feel in that montage the meaning of that moment. that she's trying to help her understand that life is beautiful. The ups and downs, the successes and the failures, all of it is meaningful. So in the end, it is actually all the experiences with physical activity, nutrition, sleeping, waking up, stress management, social connections, personal growth and learning, and purpose and meaning. It is the deliberate interaction with all of these, with how they present in your own life, that is the secret to living with vitality. That's the vitality. And that is what we call wholeness. We invite you to thewholenessnetwork.com, where you'll find the Wholeness Library. Inside, you'll find tutorials, downloads, mini classes, and all sorts of streaming content for you on your wholeness journey.